Please welcome Joan Childs to the panel. Joan is a practicing therapist. She specializes in women's issues and in treating adult children of dysfunctional families. Her specialty is mother-daughter relationships. Not only is Joan a working mom, but she is also a mother of 5. Next to her is Dr. Pamela Glassman. She's Joan's daughter and a psychologist. As therapists, both mother and daughter say there's a lot of rivalry as well. So this happens in the best of families, right, ladies? Correct?
For sure.
Okay. You have heard what has happened up to now. Should we as mothers allow our children to develop into whatever they choose, or should we sort of prod them along, and how much prodding should we do? Joan, you first.
Well, I can talk from both sides. I'm a mother and I'm also a daughter. And I think both is true. I think every child has to grow up to feel that they can become the very person that they need to be or that they were intended to be what we call self-actualized. But how do they do that? They obviously can't do it without having some kind of reflection and support and guidance from their caretakers. So mothers need to sort of plan the way or act as a guiding light, but not with too strong of a hand and not with too much manipulation or with too much control, because what happens usually when the mother goes in and tries to control or to make the daughter what she would like the daughter to become, there usually is a reaction to that, and it can be an unpleasant one. So there has got to be a balance of both self-actualization and parenting, what I would call healthy parenting.
What happens when our daughters grow into young ladies? Does that have anything to do with a love-hate relationship, that they want to be you, they want to emulate you, and at the same time they have like this separation thing? They need to get away from you to be themselves?
I think
Pam?
that, yes, I think that that's part of the separation and individuation. When daughters grow up, they need to make their parents less important so that they can become freer to be who they are. So in effect, that's what they do. That's part of the separation process. And the love-hate, I think that's in all relationships. I think that there is no such thing as intimacy without conflict. And it's both and, not just love and not just hate, but both.
Okay,
I think that's healthy.
Pam is a very young doctor.
Yes.
And a very pretty one too, might I add.
Bless you.
This is the point here. You had a very successful mother. And it's like living
Not
under mom's
always.
shadow. You have a very successful mother. You're living under her shadow. You left home at 16. Why?
I think I was very attached to my father, and I felt very protective of him, and I think I was angry. I was angry with you for leaving him, but actually that was the healthiest thing my mother could have ever done, was leave my dad, because it enabled her to become the very person that she is, because he kept her under his thumb. So I wanted to protect him. I wanted to be his little princess. And so I did. I left home at 16.
Also a little bit to find out who you were separate from mom?
Yeah, I think so. Although I wasn't conscious of it at the time. It was completely unconscious. But as far as the conflicts that my mom and I have as professionals, I think what you said is that healthy relationships need to tolerate conflict, and I learned that after coming back. She accepted me, even though I ran away, even though I was angry. She gave me a lot of understanding. So that was great.
Do you have more personal or professional competition between the two of you?
Well, I don't like the word competition so much.
What word should we use?
I think differences, and I think that every relationship has to allow for differences. First of all, it makes it more exciting, and we teach one another, we learn from one another, we share with one another for the greater good of all. I think that competition, it is a fact of life, and it needs to be externalized rather than internalized, and because if it's internalized, it usually gets acted out. By acting out, I mean that there is usually, acting out means that you're taking a feeling and you're translating it into a behavior. So I think all relationships have competition. Healthy competition is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the externalization that's important, that we share it.
Pam, how do you feel about the word competition? I heard that you finally had it out with your mom, and after that one big explosive fight, you know, your relationship changed.
Right.
That was a very important discussion that we had.
Because there are important fights and unimportant fights,
That's
correct?
right. That's right. But healthy relationships need to tolerate conflict, and you really can't love somebody without being angry with them. And I do envy my mother. I want to emulate her. She's a role model for me. And I think what happened was I was under some stress. I was finishing up a PhD program. I had broken up with my fiance, and I had to leave the nest. I was working in Los Angeles for a very prestigious pioneer in the field of psychology. And I knew that I had to develop my own practice as I was graduating. And I was so stressed out that I had to come home. And at the time, you were producing this event for this man. And you were at the height of your career on television, doing shows, and I was very jealous, and I was terrified because I was feeling very insecure that I would never be as good as her. And she was trying to, see, my dad is very protective of me, and my mother tries to get me to be on my own feet. And I think we're having a conflict over money, and I owed her some money, and my dad was okay about, and I mean, there's a good side to that. My dad has always helped me financially. But I think what I said to you, I think I called you cheap or something.
Why? Because she lent you the money for your practice instead of give it to you?
Right.
No, well, the money was not the issue. The money was, remember when I said a moment ago that if you don't externalize the feelings, they get acted out. She was really very, very vulnerable and feeling very frightened of having to stand on her own 2 feet. So what she did is she translated the vulnerability and the feelings of inadequacy into hostility. And
you were mad, huh?
I was mad.
So what'd you do about it?
I was mad. Huh?
What did you do about it? How did you fix this? Is there like good envy and bad envy, or all envy is negative?
No, I think envy is really wanting something that you don't have. And I think jealousy is being afraid that perhaps something's going to be taken away from you. I don't think it was a bad thing. I think that we got to the bottom of it. I think what would have been bad is if we never talked about it, if I never was honest with her, if I wasn't really, really vulnerable, if I didn't retrieve the attack and say, you know what, this is what's really going on with me. I am terrified, I am afraid, and I am jealous of you, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be as good as you. And I think that needs to happen. We need to talk about it. Otherwise, what happens is people start to stab each other in the backs. And
Not people, mother and daughter.
Mother and daughter,
which is much
right.
worse. Okay, what we're seeing here is very interesting. We have 3 different pairs of mothers and daughters, and only the pair in the middle is going, yeah, I was jealous, I was insecure, I felt bad, and I told my mom. Everybody else is going, me? Jealous? No, it can't be that. Let's find out if it is when we come back, okay?
So in that sense, it could be some unconscious jealousy, not conscious, but sort of on the unconscious level. She's trying to keep Erica down a little bit and not so spontaneous, and yet spontaneity is what we really want in people, because that is really their authenticity. That's being who they really are.
What about Renee and Christine? She seems to be a lot more concerned about her daughter's weight than the daughter is.
Well, that can also be a reflection of her own feelings about herself that's been unresolved. Quite frankly, I think that that Renee's mother is powerless over her daughter's weight, and I think the sooner that she comes to terms with that and relinquishes her efforts, the better it'll be for both of them.
Pam, you love to contradict your mother. What were you going to say?
Well, I do agree that you're powerless, and I think for some reason it's 2 sides of the same coin in terms of you have not been able to have your own authenticity. For some reason, you're using food to anesthetize or numb your feelings. What feelings are they? What feelings are you keeping at bay? What has not been allowed for you to be expressed? What is being kept down or kept inside of you, and what are you caring for your family? And those are questions that I would have for you.
There is a nice little body language thing that just happened here. When you said she's not in control, the mother is not in control, Renee went, why did you do that?
It's true.
Because you don't want her to be in control.
No, I don't.
So why don't you tell her instead of eat? Just tell her.
I have.
The anger.
I have told her. I have screamed in her face about it.
Yeah, but you don't take control of yourself.
Well, what
That's
you're
a
doing
hard step
isn't
to do.
helping either. So if it's not working, try something else.
Okay, you wanted to
go.
say?
Yeah, I just want to say to Dorothy, I think you should be proud of Erica. There's a lot of teenagers at her age that really don't know what they want to do other than party and, you know, sit around on the sofa. She's got goals and ambitions, and she's going after them. I think you should be proud of that. There's not too much of that around.
I clap to that. Yes, 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 yes. Christina, jogging. I'll take you first, and then I'll take you. Is that okay?
Hi, I think you're all very lucky to have each other. I just met my mom 15 years ago, and I love her very deeply. Make use of the time you have with each other. And I think it's been a little bit too superficial. I think we need to get down to basics. You need to just love each other for what you have. I wish I had had all those years with my mom.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My question is for Jones. When does the child become the adult?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Well, when should the mother back off?
According to who now? According
When
to
should
who?
the mother back off?
Oh, well, being a mother is a lifelong task, and I think that through the stages of development, mothers have to learn when they have to begin to let go and let the child start to separate, and it starts as early as perhaps 9 months old. The first stage of life is when the mother and the baby are bonded, and the baby is totally and completely dependent on the mother. But as soon as that child starts crawling around 9 months and starts investigating, that's the beginning of separation and individuation. And from there on in, it's a continual path of letting the child grow into the adult that the child was intended to become.
And letting the child make mistakes, because that's the only way they learn, right?
Right.
Okay, we're talking about mothers and daughters, what makes them fight, what makes them part ways. We'll be right back. In closing.
I say that everybody has the right to be who they were intended to be self-actualized, and to be self-actualized is to have your spontaneity and your authenticity, but also to be aware that being a parent is a tough job. Believe me, I have 5 children, and I know, and being a daughter in these times is also very difficult. So balance. Give a little and take a little.
You know how they're always saying, our mothers are saying, when you grow up and you have your own kids, you'll see what I mean? Yep, as soon as you have your own kids, you'll see, I promise. Thanks a lot.